What's up, everybody? This is your review for Braxton Family Value Season 7, Episode 3. Really quickly, I want to say this review is probably going to be long because I feel to best explain a big chunk of this, I have to tell some of my business so it's understood. And like I said, we just going to keep the conversation rocking in the comment section because I know we're on a talk. So it picks up with Tracy stumbling, and she says that her pants were too long, and she says that she didn't have a drink. But then I think at one point she did say she had one right before she left the house. I think, not sure. I didn't feel like rewinding because I knew it was an hour and a half, and ain't nobody got time for that. So the vows were exchanged, and these vows were written by Judge Maybelline, and it was crazy because Vaughn's vows were not the same as Trina's vows. Found that to be interesting. And a couple that stood out to me, the ones that he kind of looked like, what the hell, was I promise to express my feelings. And he looked like all of them. And I think part of that is two things. One feeling that he probably doesn't want to express is that of anger. And sometimes we don't have the tools to be able to communicate through the expression of anger. And most men, we are raised, be strong, this, that, and the third. And then a lot of us African Americans growing up in families where, a lot of stuff was still pulled from slavery. Even one big thing, and I'll touch on this a little later, where you don't, more or less, especially for men, you're shut up a lot. You're not allowed to express certain feelings. You're not allowed to sit here and vocalize what is going on. So more often than not, and this isn't for me because people are related to do this, their only way of reacting is either to start yelling and then some physically lash out. So that could be it. Then the next one is promise never to lie down angry. Which is a good one, but then that means that they gonna have to do a lot of talking before they go to bed. If y'all haven't heard the song by Monica and Tyrese, "Go to Bed Mad," check that out. That song for After the Storm vow. It made me think of that when that vow was said. And then this one, I will put you first above all others. Which, cool, got that. It was this part, and I'll be mindful of your family and the others in your life. I ain't really like that. I really didn't, because you know what? We're not even gonna get into that whole Marion family and all this other stuff. I'm gonna just move the hell on. So David, so one thing I noticed is David, that's Tamar's ex-boyfriend. Hopefully it stays that way. He was there, obviously, because we knew from Tamar Get Your Life that he was there. I don't know if David told them don't show me, or if they were just tired of dealing with him, but he was cropped out. Now his predator locks were still present in the episode. His face wasn't. So Tracy says to her father that, she feels a bit of a way following that little her tripping over, because she feels that her sister are going to think that she's drunk, this, that, and third. And he's saying, why do you even care? Now, right here is one of those things of valuing the opinion of her sisters, primarily Tony. Because you even hear her, Michael Jr., say towards the end of the episode that, she pretty much run things and whatnot. So pretty much Tony, like, everybody goes with what Tony says, which there are some problems there. So if Tony is feeling the way, the girls are going to feel the way because she feels the way. They're going to mimic her emotions and her feelings. I'm sorry. Okay. Something popped up on my screen. My beat. So Tracy is side-eyeing Tawanda's boyfriend because he's always inserting himself into things, trying to run things. It's almost like he wants to be in every scene, and even in what's going to come later in the season when the girls go on a girls trip, he just has to show up. Okay, Tawanda, I really hope this works out for you, because I feel like he only with you for a come up, okay? And anybody say opportunist. So Michael Sr. gets up to sing to Trina. I forget what song that he was attempting to sing. Tracy gets up there and helps him out, more or less try to get him back on tempo and whatnot. And I know a lot of people were clowning her. One thing, now here's the thing, I understand, for singers and whatnot, for the most part, you have to stay on ready because you never know when you're going to be asked to sing. She wasn't even expecting to be singing, so it was just like, oh wow, I'm being passed the mic. Okay, let me try to, clean this up. So the girls are laughing. Now we all know consciously by watching they weren't laughing at Tracy. Let me phrase it. I cannot say definitively that they were not laughing at Tracy, but I'm pretty sure I know all of us were laughing at Michael Sr. So Tracy goes and sit down, and somebody named Olivia, I don't know if that's like an aunt or whatever, but she said to Tracy that they were laughing at you. Now we didn't see it, but we heard I think through Tawanda that Miss Wanda, had said to her they weren't laughing at you. And I know a lot of people on Twitter was kind of her like, well, when Miss Wanda says this, it should have been good as gold. But here's what people have to realize. Once you already in your bag, a lot of the times you don't want to hear nothing else because it's just like you're right there. So again, I get, we're going to break this thing down in a minute because I get Tracy. And here's the thing, I love me some Toni Braxton, I really do. I really, I'm just gonna be a lover of her music because I swear, the dynamics with their family, I swear I see it with my relatives and my immediate family. I swear I see it, but we'll get there. So Tracy is the only one sitting at her father's table. Everybody else is with Mama Evelyn. And at first I thought they did that intentionally, but I think Tracy sat there with him on purpose, stayed there. And it's because we found out a little bit later that they actually have a solid relationship. Like, she's the only one of the sisters that has a strong relationship with the father. But, and I'm also kind of vexed as to why Kevin wasn't sitting at that table, why he was sitting with the sister. But I think Kevin was sitting with the sister probably to make sure that he helps to regulate and keep them from coming, crazy at his wife. Because I felt he was trying to be, a BS blocker. So the sisters are asking Kevin what's wrong with Tracy. And he's telling them, like, just don't feed into it. Because I don't think he knew, but his whole thing is because he knows his wife. At least he should. So he's saying, like, hey, don't feed into it. And they're not listening to him. Tracy then gets up and goes to the quick change area because she's trying to collect herself. Now, I don't care what you say. Yes, she was causing this, that, and the third, but that right there is growth. The fact that you realize in the moment, I am sitting here, I am showing my black behind. Let me remove myself and try to calm down, because she realizes that even though she's in a moment, this moment isn't about her. It's about her sister. What I didn't like is you saw not everybody, but most of the immediate family going back there to try to see what was wrong with her, which obviously that further sent her off, which I can understand it. Because the way that I am, if I care about the person or someone and I'm getting into an argument, I will remove myself. If I feel that I'm about to get to a point where I'm about to sit here and say some shit that is finna be, I'm gonna say the most vile thing I can say because I'm hurt and I want you to hurt, I'll remove myself. And sometimes it might take an hour. Sometimes I just need to remove myself for days to calm down and really collect myself. So I get what she was doing. The last thing you want, and you have to, if you ever got mad and you walked away and somebody comes following in behind you, how are you going to feel? But see, people aren't looking at it that way. It's just, okay, here's Tracy. She's having another moment. It's all about her. That wasn't it. So Tracy going off in the back, I understood it. And then at the same exact time, especially for those who have more than one sibling, she had siblings and other people, multiple people talking to her. So And that can come off as an attack when you're trying to talk to one person, expressing your feelings and whatnot to one person, and you have other people trying to argue a point, so you feel attacked. Again, I'm gonna just say I'm Team Tracy on all of it. Um, let's see. And while everybody is back there, minus Kevin, you hear Tony say, "Somebody get Kevin, because I'm not finna deal with her." And it's that dismissiveness, because I got it. You don't want to deal with her, but you see a lot, especially if y'all go back and watch the past seasons. Like, it's one of those where Tony writes off her feelings. Tony writes off how she feels and what she's going through. And again, because if y'all really watch it, even though both parents are responsible for how these children have broken down, I primarily put a lot of the blame on Mama Evelyn, because of the simple fact they were raised under her for a nice chunk. So all of that anger that she had, literally the girls are experiencing that, minus one person. And I'm gonna tie that in a little bit. So yes, Tony gets a lot of that, and of course the person that's most like Evelyn happens to be Tamar. So because Tony is Tony the Braxton, amongst other things, yes, what she says does go, because you don't want to piss off the person you know that to a certain degree is holding the purse strings. I flipped the page already. So Tawanda wants Tracy gone. And this is one of those where I see that's her making an executive decision, but it's almost like that wasn't your decision to make. And this further adds to a lot of the issues that Tracy tends to have with Tawanda. But again, we'll move on. They bring a new cake out. Like I said, it looked good. Trina did not like how the cake itself looked, but it looked way better than the other, and it was a pretty cake. It's just she wanted a certain thing. I'm just happy at the turnaround and what they got. So it is what it is. So Trina and Tawanda meet up. More or less, Trina is going to Tawanda's house. Trina said she did not get her money back for the 2 failed cakes. She tried to call and that phone was cut off. I would be livid. I really would be livid. I also said that I would not have gotten rid of those cakes. I would have put them in the freezer, let them. I would have separated them into pieces, put them in the freezer, let them flash froze, took them out, put them in the vacuum seal bag, and then put them in. I ain't throwing away no good money like that. I refuse. And then we began to hear about an altercation between Tamar and Tracy, this was alluded or mentioned on Tamar's show, but we never got to see it. And I'm kind of vexed why, because we didn't see none of what was going on behind a black curtain. I'm pretty sure they had the footage. And Trina just says something happened, but she doesn't know, obviously, because Trina was nowhere near it. And when she tried to get close to her, Tamar did do the sisterly thing and say, "Ain't nothing going on back here. Go dance with your man." I gotta give Tamar props on that. So Trina feels that. So Trina is equating some of what happened with Tracy's voice, where she feels inhibited by all the surrounding things, and it's kind of hard to live up to having to fall under Tony the Braxton. And Tamar even fell under that too, where if y'all listen to her first time, even though she don't want to claim it, they made her sound like Tony. They wanted her to sound like Tony. Even though, if I'm not mistaken, they just called her Tamar. It's kind of stupid. So, and a lot of that was her living in that shadow. And I think even with Tamar not wanting to sing, I think there's still some reservations with that too. But whatever. But I don't think that it was necessarily just that. But again, you get put on the spot to sing, like you probably not finna, be able to, like, okay, here we go. And Tamar and Tony happen to be the most seasoned singers out of all the sisters. So more often than not, they probably woke up doing vocal warm-ups and exercises, whatever. So both the Michaels meet up and they talk, and this is when Michael Sr. said that Tracy had always been a daddy's girl and always had his back. So when the situation happened between him and Evelyn, all like his other daughters literally sided with the mother. And Tracy didn't necessarily side with anybody, but it was one of those where you're still my father. You still occupy this role in my heart, so I'm going to keep you there. One thing I feel, and I want y'all to tell me how y'all feel, I really feel as if this is where a lot of the tension begins with the sisters. Because again, Tony is the head and all of them follow behind her with the exception of Tracy. And she probably felt away like, okay, we're all over here siding with mom, but you're still over here, consorting with the enemy. I feel like there was some passive aggressiveness coming at her based off of that. I don't know it as a fact, but my intuition is certainly wrong about shit like this. It's, again, especially dealing with siblings on some fuck shit. So I get it. The men pretty much compare Tracy to a teapot, to where, pressure builds up, then all of a sudden, boom, explosion. And kind of see that. So Tracy arrives, and she says that she realizes that she pretty much realized that she needs to explore her feelings about her niece's death and talking to someone, because that right there is one of the more fresh points of contention and emotions, but that isn't the root of everything. But that is what is causing a lot of the anger of what's going on. And her show, I ain't gonna go there. Shirt, but I ain't gonna go there. One thing that I wrote here, viewing someone through a lens. So here's where I'm going to bring in my stuff. I feel as if whenever the sisters deal with Tracy, they deal with her from a certain point in their past where they always view her through a certain lens, where no matter what happens, they can't get past nothing because they're viewing her through this lens. Like with me, growing up, we had, like I said, every family has generations. So with us, and it's still, and something that's still prevalent, obviously baby boomers, which would be my parents' firstborn child, who is a Generation X. I believe my middle brother is also Generation. Yep, he's Generation X by where the cutoff is. I'm Generation Y, aka Millennial, but again, I'm on the early end of the spectrum, not the latter end. And one thing that I've noticed is the Gen Xers, amongst all of not just my mother, but her sisters and brothers' children, but they all have strong ties to the ideals of our parents, because they are the firstborn. So a lot of their ideals and belief and ideologies they have. Now, for me, I tend to have the work ethic of a baby boomer. I do, but a lot of the other stuff I don't really. It doesn't resonate with me. So for a lot of them, they feel because they are the eldest within their generation that they were due a certain respect that they hadn't earned. For me, I'm respecting our parents and aunts and uncle, and obviously our grandparents, because those are the elders. But I'm looking at them like, you want me to respect you, but what have you done for me to give you this respect of an elder? You're not going to get it. And many of them would say and do things to me, and my reaction is, okay, well, since I don't feel as if I should fight family, I'm gonna just sit here and cut you with the best way that I can with my words. Now, my mother's an Aries. I'm a Capricorn. Out of all my mother's children, I have her personality. That don't match. To have her personality, and she's a Spitfire. I'm already a Cap, and then I have her personality. It just don't work. But I can say some shit that make you really want to fight me. But I'm doing that as a defense mechanism, because you're coming at me. So my defense to get you above me is to use my words. Now, in their mind, because they don't feel as if they're ever doing anything wrong to me, is, okay, well, he's just coming at me. Okay, he's being aggressive for no reason, though there is a reason. So in my mind, since I'm being attacked, I need to defend myself. So a narrative was written about me that all I do is argue with adults. I'm cold. I'm the spawn of Satan. A whole list of things. And no matter where I've been in, the last 2 decades, it's always that when I run into one of them, they're always looking at me through that lens of being either 7 or 13. And no matter what, and even if, because case in point, my father's funeral, there were 3 there were technically 4 repasses that day, but 3 which I attended. One of the church, one of the house he grew up in, and then one we had here. The one the house he grew up in, one of my cousins, she was talking about how she needed to, take her blood pressure medicine. And I made it just like, man, you guys like, you're the only one who got high blood pressure because I do have hypertension. And I guess she felt as if I was attacking her because, again, that's all that I do is just attack people for no reason. So she goes off on me like, well, yo, da 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 da. And I'm just like, you know what? I was just joking. I'm cool on you for the rest of my time here because I was stationed at Fort Bragg and I literally was leaving in a couple of days because, again, somebody dies, life stops, but it really don't stop. But that tends to be the thing where I'm always viewed through a lens, and it's a narrative that was written that I didn't even write. But I'm always seen through that lens, and a lot of the time is you don't realize that I react. I somewhat am the way that I am because the way that y'all are. But when I sit here and just express myself and not even going off, you automatically think that I'm coming for your neck, and it's like, okay, well, I have to get one up on him before he gets one up on me. I say all that to say I feel that it's the same thing that is happening with Tracy, where they view her through a certain lens. And we seen Tracy sit here and get bucked because we've seen, they did a playback and we'll get to one material, but we've seen through these past, 6 seasons, not including this one, of them messing with her. And her reaction is, I'm just finna come for your jugular. And part of that is also with them and how their mother are. If y'all go back to last season when they sat down with Ayanla and Evelyn finally decided to check Tamar, and Trina, I don't even think she was saying something. She was like, Trina, I got this. She was like, I ain't saying nothing, mama. And a lot of that, we see that in the African American community to where as children, and it's worse with male, I'm not gonna say it's worse. Male children have their own struggles and battles they have to face, but you get shut down so quickly, you're not allowed to vocalize anything. Your emotions are invalid. Anything that you say is automatically deemed as disrespect, and these things manifest itself in other ways. I'm giving y'all way too much, but I'm just saying, like, I get it. So for Tracy, she probably felt as if she never had room to really, because I think if they had a better environment cultivated, that she would actually be able to, what she already does, but I guess in a different way, be able to express it in such a way that it doesn't come off too aggressive. But I mean, she's entitled to have that. But again, they all feel as if they never did nothing to her and these emotions are not warranted. Okay. And another thing is you see that problems are always swept under the rug. And one thing that I had to say to, I forget who I said it to. It was somebody when I came back home. I said one issue that our family has is we love to sweep things up under the rug. Huge problems. Like it's a big old dust mound with, the carpet sitting on top of it. Like the problem is there and y'all act as if it's not. And because you don't deal with these problems, what will happen is these problems will manifest itself into something else. So you're sitting here going off on somebody about something that probably is minuscule, but it's because you didn't deal with this problem over here. And a lot of the times we put a Band-Aid over something where we need to cut open this scar, clean out the scar tissue, and actually let natural healing happen. But no one wants to do that because what's going to happen is egos get battered when you're being told about yourself. You have to now accept some type of responsibility and accountability. And one thing that I always say is an apology without action ain't nothing but words. And this is an issue they have. How do I know? Because I fucking live it myself. All right, back to this. So Tony and Tamar meet up. Tony needs to do a pickup shoot because they wanted to add some more stuff to the video. Tony mentions that COVID has now started to pop off and she does have lupus. And one thing that we have learned since this pandemic is people who do have pre-existing medical conditions, catching COVID can exacerbate it. And for a lot of people, the cause of death wasn't really COVID. It was the other issue, but having that doesn't help. Like me, I have asthma, so it's always scary for me going out because I already have a respiratory issue. Lord knows I don't need another one. And Tony said she was holding her breath during dance and it was cute. Moving on. So now we get to the big thing. This is Tracy therapy session. One thing that I will admit is when she was detailing what happened at the wedding, she did miss some stuff. And I don't think that it was cut out. But one thing that I'll say is, especially if people have never been to therapy, you can't get everything out in one therapy session. I've been to therapy. I've done a lot of work on myself, so I can see a lot of these things with Tracy. It comes with time. But she says that she's tired of being angry, which is good. Tracy says that she has been antagonized and she often withdraws. And one thing that I love that they did is they went back and pretty much damn near every season showing how at least one of the sisters has said or done something to Tracy where it was an immediate she popping the hell off, or it comes later. Yet they act like they don't see what they do because, again, they treat her like she's the outcast. And I swear, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that she kept communications with her daddy. I want somebody to prove me wrong on that. Tracy recalls what happened with her and Tamar. So again, she was trying to calm herself down, and Tamar comes back there. And Tamar gets close to her, and Tamar, I guess, is saying, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? Did I do something? And I think one key element that was missing, and you would have had to watch Tamar Get Your Life, is that David was orchestrating a lot of these moving pieces, trying to get these two to talk. And even though we don't know it, I truly believe he pushed for her, Tamar, to go talk to Tracy. I really believe that is what happened, that he pushed for that to happen. And some way, somehow, Tamar touched her, and Tracy said that she grabbed her hand and said, "Do not touch me." And a small altercation happened, but we didn't see, none of that. But this is her retelling that. And again, I did say WeTV ran back the things that the sisters have done to her, and I'm gonna say it because I don't want to forget it. It's so no, I'm gonna get to it. And then she mentions how her niece was the closest female to her, and that's kind of why it's hurting her. And I get that feeling. Growing up, like I said, my parents divorced when I was 2, so my mom at one point had to go back to the workforce. She had to do what she had to do, because at one point she went from having 3 boys in the house to having 2 boys in the house. She had to make stuff happen. So during some of that time, I was closer to my grandmother than my actual mother. To me, my grandmother was my mother, because we lived in this apartment building. I am now currently living in the apartment that I grew up in up until age 10 before we moved downstairs after my grandparents died. And when my grandparents passed, within a month of each other, my grandfather right before Thanksgiving, my grandmother right after my birthday / right after Christmas, the pillars were gone within a month of each other, tore this family apart. Sent me into a depression to where, if y'all watch a video I did years ago, I talked about me being suicidal and how all of that happened based off of that event. So she left, she passed on. Obviously, it was a void there, because it's like, okay, well, the one person I could talk to, the one person that I felt close to, is no longer here. And at the age of 10, like, I don't know how to deal with these emotions. And also having fractured relationship with my relatives, where I can't even go talk to any of y'all about what's going on with me, because y'all already do me dirty. And the last thing I want to do is to give you any form of ammunition to use against me later. And then, of course, still being 10 years old and not knowing how to work through it, chances are, had it got thrown back in my face, it got thrown back in my face years later, but had it got thrown back in my face, I probably would have went ballistic in a very volatile way. And my cousin Yolanda, who is one of my aunt's daughter, so my aunt Alfreda, she has passed on, going to glory. My cousin Yolanda has also gone on to glory. She passed away from breast cancer, but whatever. I ended up getting close to her, and it's just like, okay, there's somebody now in the family again that I can sit here and have a connection with. And I lost her right before going off to the military, which I'm just like, great. And that kind of hurt me, because like every time I get close to somebody, it's like they're being plucked away from me. And Tracy's feeling the same exact way, where it's just like, well, outside of her immediate family, there's no for her to connect to. And in terms of females, the only one she did connect with is her brother's daughter. And now she's gone, so she's feeling isolated. She's feeling alone. And she said, as she said in previous episodes, or the past 2 episodes, that was like a daughter to her. And she said that her and her brother, before that incident of his daughter passing, they would talk like once or twice a week. Now she can't talk to him because that is his daughter, but it's her daughter as well because of the connection. And it's almost like she doesn't want to like intrude on his grieving process or try to make this about her. So because she can't talk to him and she's also not talking to her sister for legit reason, it's all on her in addition to all this other stuff. And and then it sinks in. And one good thing about therapy is sometimes it's just getting it out. And I understand Tracy, being guarded, and she says she feels alone and she's scared of the reality. The reality is she's gone and she's not coming back. That's one of those parts of grieving where you kind of have to get to that point. She just didn't want to accept it, even though she said that she has gone on to be with the Lord. She hadn't fully accepted it, I don't think, until this particular point in time. And I already said, and she didn't say it, but I said it with me, and I understand, and I'm pretty sure it's with her that, it's scary where when you're close to someone and they get pulled away from you, it's almost like you feel like everybody that you get close to is going to be pulled away from you, to where it's always going to be an empty void there. But what I will say is, and I'm still Team Tracy, but I think that she needs to get to a point to where she feels that void, because if not, she's going to latch on to somebody else. And hopefully, and I pray that if that does happen, that person isn't pulled away from her, because that's really going to send her down a crazy path. And she says she doesn't know how to be grounded. After this, they have to take a break. The therapist assures her that her niece is with her. Tracy says she feels that the wedding situation would not have happened had she came to this conclusion earlier. And I'm gonna say yes and no. I think that's still sitting on her. It exacerbated everything, but I do still think that if you take her niece's death out the equation, all the other shit she was mad at or still holding on to, it was going to trigger her regardless. But I do think that she was drinking before because she's trying to cope. And one thing in the African American community is because we don't talk about things, what goes on in this house stays in this house, so you're left with a whole lot of things. And because we've conditioned ourselves to believe that therapy is, it ain't for us, it's for these people that's weak. If you gotta talk to somebody, this, that, or there, all you gotta do is just talk to the Lord, amongst other things. And it makes it difficult. It really does make it difficult. But I'm glad she is doing the work. So COVID has happened. Tamar and Tony talk. It's really nothing. It's really nothing. Trina and Vaughn, so we get to them. They have a nice house, a nice little chateau. It's beautiful. They moved Mama Evelyn from her condo in because they did not want her to be alone during this time, which I understand it, and that is a beautiful thing, because you never know. Because when my father passed on, he was living by himself, and he, has, I don't want to tell his business, but something happened with him while he was in the bathroom. He hit his head, so he slipped, hit his head, and he was just there, and no one knew. And my baby brother was able to talk to the landlord to let him in, and he was the one that saw our father on the ground. So I can understand them doing that, and it's commendable. I applaud them. Evelyn has thrown down for breakfast, and Trina's getting a second. It's like, what you doing? And because her thing is, she doesn't do all of what her mother does, and like, now you sitting here putting a bar where it don't need to be with me and my new husband. Now, for anybody who's ever watched Medea's Big Happy Family the play, y'all can't tell me that Trina did not look like Joy Sand with her hair like that. I ain't trying to talk about nobody because my hair naturally is at third, but I was like, Lord, I just wish she would have had like a head wrap on or something, a bonnet maybe, but goodness gracious. And why is Mama Evelyn tying up that dry ass with moving on. Vaughn works at a clinic, so obviously he has to go and get out there. And again, this is when COVID is rampant. Tony and Michael Jr. talk. He asks Tony if she's talked to Tracy. Tony says that she hasn't. because when everything happened, she was mad at Tracy and she didn't want to talk to Tracy right then because of all of these raw emotions. But no conversation has been had, and I am going to assume, though I shouldn't do that, but I'm coming to the conclusion that she didn't reach out to her at all since they haven't talked, because she would have said, I reached out, but I haven't gotten a response. And Michael mentions that she's in counseling, and Tracy's like, that's good. Maybe she'll be able to, get to her problem so she can figure out what the issues are. And it's one of those where it's just like, good. Like, you're throwing everything back that way where we had nothing to do with it. So Tracy can figure out what the hell was bothering Tracy, because we didn't do anything. But then she even said maybe the therapist will help her realize what her issues are with us so she can tell us so we cannot do them anymore. But she has multiple times. And here's something that I don't understand. They have to rewatch the season to do these confessionals. If y'all go back to Real Housewives of Atlanta season 1, they didn't really do confessionals. They did on the spot. Hey, this is how I'm feeling. When I think they actually did do confessional, but it was a lot of them in that scene in the moment, kind of giving a recap of what's going on. Now they watch the episodes back to give their commentary. So how is it that you've watched these episodes back, whether it be for these confessionals or just as the world is watching them, and you don't see the shit that you do to your sister? Like Tony's saying, I believe in season 2, that Tracy needs to lose like 10 or 20 pounds. Or Tawanda bringing up an alleged scandal that Kevin had, which I believe he did have the scandal. But you're having this conversation and you're saying like Gossip is doing all of this while Tracy's not there. So y'all do shit to pick at her. But y'all act like y'all don't. Selective ass motherfucking memory. Anyway, where am I? So leaving them. So Tracy is with her husband. She said she hasn't talked to her sisters, and she's cool with that. She's just happy to be with her family. Because she's like, those are my sisters, which I would be like, those are my relatives, but this is my family, meaning her husband, her son, her son's baby's mother, because I'm not sure if they're married or not, and her son's child. That's their family, and that's what she's focusing on. And a lot of times you have to do that. Sometimes you just gotta worry about you and the immediate and leave that other shit over there. Where if something is draining life out of you and there is no resolve, sometimes it's best to just leave that shit over there. They just shoot for the show. Kevin mentions that he's a crisis. He works in crisis intervention at the VA, and that he can be deployed anywhere during this pandemic, which I tip my hat to him for working with vets. I honestly do, because I am a vet. So the women talk about Tamar's situation. I'm not even going to rehash that. What I can say is I do appreciate that both Tony and Trina both said that this is not their story to tell. It's Tamar's. And let me see. We see what's coming up, because at first I thought it was a grand opening, grand closing for this season, but you see at one point in, later to come in the season, that Tony says like, so that stuff happened in the past, just get over it. And that's that shit that I don't like, where it's like, yeah, you want someone to get over it because you don't want to be held accountable for the things that you've said and done to said person, because you don't want that to come out. And I think part of it is, as much as I love Toni Braxton and I love her music and her voice, I think a lot of it is Tony doesn't want to be aired out on TV. I think that's a big part, which a lot of this hell can happen off camera. They're just not willing to do the damn work. And one thing that you notice is you see the dynamics, because Tracy is alone, because we always see Tony and Tamar. We always see Tawanda and Trina, but who the hell is Tracy with? Catch. And the girls end up doing a sister trip where there's all staying in one house. And I think that was all production, because Basketball Wives, if I'm not mistaken, is doing this where all the girls are going to be in one house and feel from there. And this is their way of finishing the season. Plus, I'm gonna be honest, this is probably the best thing to do. Get all them in. The only person that's not there is Tamar for obvious reason. But this is a good way, because you're all in one house. At some point, you gonna stop tiptoeing around the subject and talk about it. And also, we see that Tawanda's boyfriend shows up, because this is all girls only. And I think he proposes. But again, this ain't got shit to do with you, bro. But that's it. My throat is cracking. I need to sit on someone to take my ass to bed. But that is my review let's talk about it in the comment section. You know, like I said, I just sat here and I gave y'all a lot of what has happened with me, because again, I understand Tracy, and I hope that I was able to eloquently bridge the two. And because I'm about to just literally upload this video without editing it, it is what it is. But if I miss something, we can talk about it in the comments. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please rate, comment, subscribe, and share. And I will see you for the Real Housewives of Potomac. I'm still trying to see if I want to do Salt Lake City, and I'm trying to find all the episodes of R&B Divas Atlanta and LA, because what I want to do is do like a watch party with everyone. Delete the video because obviously I want to get copywritten, and then come back and do a retro review. So we'll see how it happens, y'all.